Okay, so thank you everybody. Good morning and welcome to a new session of our data security series of webinars and podcasts. I hope it has been very, very interesting and informative for you, and I hope that we will continue the same level of intensity and the same level of information sharing that benefits all of us. Your questions have also been very, very useful, very knowledgeable. So please keep them coming. Firstly, when we talk about AI, there has been a lot of talk around AI regulation, AI compliance, AI governance. So I thought let us start with what is the state of the world around AI regulation. I did a quick search and did some analysis. It turns out that 70 plus, a little more than 70 countries have some form of AI regulation, either a law in very few cases, but mostly guidances, regulations, typically from regulators of um, regulated industries like financial services, etc. So it's not an insubstantial number. It's a fairly large number and it's growing. There are very few countries or jurisdictions with what is called a binding regulation. The count shows up as 3, but please mind it that that 3 includes the European Union, which is around 27 countries. So around 30 plus countries already have binding national regulations on AI. What is the takeaway? Takeaway for me, and I think it should be relevant to all of you, is that AI regulation in some form or some shape is coming across most mature regulatory jurisdictions, including India. What form will it take? We don't know. What shape will it take? We don't know. But the good thing is that we have an opportunity to influence what that regulation will be. Now, when it comes to AI risk management framework, and both the regulation risk management we'll be talking about in due course, but when we talk about the risk management framework, the NIST's AI risk management framework of all the available ones is probably the most comprehensive. It is a fairly well drafted, large document. I strongly urge all of you to read it, the bare text, not just PowerPoints out of it like this slide. It's a very well written document. It is very informative, but what it recommends is in the ethos of PDCA that we all know of, a 4-step cycle, starting with govern, then mapping, which is around typically use case qualification, measurement of the impact, and managing, operating, improving, and going back to the governance cycle. What is interesting in this framework is that it actually details out the measurement part of it. It calls out a framework which it calls TEVV, which is test, evaluate, verify, and validate, which I am expecting will become a discipline in itself. And all of this entire framework and all that it entails will give a lot of opportunities to all of you and all of us who either have to govern on the operational side or as consultants, advisors, and compliance professionals, you have to focus more deeply on the governance side. So it's important. Thanks to Vikas for reminding me about this framework and the fact that we should talk about it. I strongly urge we read it. And just to close, when we are talking about data protection, how does AI fit into this data protection puzzle, the jigsaw? In my mind, there are 5 broad areas in which it fits. Context, which we know about. Sensitive data discovery classification, we will talk about it. We have talked about it. We will hear some more. What is called guiding and blocking, which is exfiltration and data loss prevention. risky behavior prediction, and finally prioritize and analyze. But that is not to say that there will not be more use cases. These are the early harvest of what we are seeing. And I am sure that by the month, newer and newer use cases of productively using AI in data protection will come up. The tools will support it. And as practitioners and as consultants and implementation partners, we will have the opportunity to deploy these tools at scale and provide the level of protection that our organizations need and what modern times demand. With that, I will close with the fact that AI revolution is not in the future, it's here and now. There are three main kinds that we are tracking: predictive, generative, and agentic. Again, we will talk about it, but keep this at your back pocket, keep this at the back of your mind, because all that you will hear today and maybe in the next subsequent sessions will frame this context in greater detail. Thank you. Back to you, Vikas.
Yeah, thanks. So what great insights into that. Let's continue, Rohit. Maybe you want to share your screen and move forward.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, so Vikas, just let me know if my audio is loud and my screen is visible to you. Just give me a
All
thumbs up.
good. Yep, all good.
Okay. So, in continuation to the stage set by SOA, he has spoken about compliance, he has spoken about regulations and the coming era, the Gen AI, the predictive AI, and the agentic AI. So, I'll try to talk something practical about it, like how companies like us can help you in securing the whole platform, right? So, let me start with this. Let me start this presentation with some background. So, so it all started with ChatGPT, right? Back in November 22, reaching 1 million users in just 5 days, and then I remember 100 million monthly active users within just 2 months of launch. And soon, what we could see is a flood of whole Gen AI applications around us. The capability and the popularity of this innovation is such that, be it any software, hardware, or IoT device, or even nowadays even consumer household appliances like your washing machines, air conditioners, refrigerators, are all now AI enabled, right? So, see, some organizations embrace this wave to be AI first organization, some completely blocked it, and others took a balanced approach, depending upon the nature of their industry or their risk appetite. Having said that, tracking this AI usage is something Zscaler has always kept its eye on. So Threat Labs, which is Zscaler's homegrown security and threat intel team, they analyze the traffic originating from Gen AI applications, and they observe that the Chat GPT leads the pack in terms of the usage. And at 45%, it accounts for nearly half of all AI usage which is happening across the globe in enterprises. Then there are other popular tools which you can see here. Grammarly is there for writing and grammar help. Then we have Microsoft Copilot for automating your tasks in M365. We have DeepL, which is again another AI-powered translation tool. Quillbot, very similar to Grammarly, another writing assistant. And interestingly, the most widely used apps are also among the most blocked apps. Specifically, we see the Chat GPT tops the list again in terms of the apps blocked, followed by Grammarly and Copilot. Now, this is because enterprises are being cautious when it comes to the tools that could accidentally expose the sensitive data or lacks access controls or governance over AI models. And we know that they have all right reasons to be cautious. So let's try to understand some of these reasons in more detail and then how we can help you here. So when it comes to Gen AI, okay, we all acknowledge that, and in fact, we agree also that these apps have the potential to improve productivity. So let's say there is a hypothetical company called 𝐀𝐈. So as a developer of that company, what I can do is I can upload my internal source code asking ChatGPT or any other Gen AI application to optimize it. As a marketing manager, I can ask GenAI platform to convert companies' acquisition notes into some sort of a press release, right? Or as a financial analyst, I can convert my pipeline numbers into some sort of trends. So while there is no ill intention of any of these employees which I mentioned, but now the Chat GPT or that GenAI application knows a lot of confidential information about 𝐾𝐈, which a third person or competition can easily extract, right? So this is more from a loss of competitive data or trade secret. Now this is one kind of risk, but see, there are certain threats which are very specific to AI. For example, the moment you type anything in the prompt window when you are interacting with that GenAI app and you hit the enter button, the data is actually gone out of your control. Literally, there is no delete button. There are no access controls because in LLMs, in large language models or in machine learning, all your real world objects are actually converted into some complex mathematical expressions via embeddings. Then prompt injection attacks are very common. This is possible, and we have seen some of the examples in the past. So a malicious inputs from a user can actually trick LLM model into producing unexpected or unauthorized outputs. Or maybe threat actors or attackers can, they can subtly alter the training data by adding some biased or misleading information. Actually, this term is called as inserting a poisoned data, or they can inject backdoors into it. Now, the poison data can cause LLM to learn incorrect or skewed relationship, right? Leading to biased outputs, or maybe it can have unintended behaviors. Now, all this happens because LLMs process both system prompts and the user inputs in the same format, which we know is natural language, making it difficult for the model to actually distinguish between that, yes, is this a legitimate instruction or is it a malicious one? So that's the whole problem which is associated with this AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a glimpse of controls which you can deploy across public GenAI applications like ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexities of the world, or your enterprise Microsoft Copilot, or your enterprise managed or private AI applications, right? So starting with the first one, which is securing public GenAI. So when it comes to public GenAI, what we can do is we can perform automated data discovery, giving you a very clear picture of what all GenAI applications are getting accessed in your environment, whether it is sanctioned application or it's an unsanctioned application. Not only the names of application or the trends of those applications, but rather we can capture the user prompts, and we can also give you a prompt level visibility here. From a control perspective, we can block these applications from getting accessed. We can impose conditions like, hey, upload is not allowed, but download is allowed. Printing is not allowed. Text input is not allowed. Or you can do a full-fledged watermarking there. Or in case you are interested to perform a DLP, so yes, you can perform a full-fledged DLP and log an incident also. Let's see this concept in detail. How does it actually looks like here? So starting with the visibility part, so who is using GenAI, what data is being sent to these applications, identifying all sort of shadow AI, giving you a full visibility into your GenAI risk posture. So this is one such screenshot which I've taken from our console. So here you can rightly see that, at the top, we can tell you how many GenAI applications are getting accessed in the environment, how many sensitive data prompts have been entered into these platforms, the number of users, the total files uploaded, GenAI usage, how many users are using Microsoft Copilot, how many are using ChatGPT, is it sanctioned, unsanctioned, the usage trend over a period of month. All these things can be done. Then moving further, you can also see the kind of sensitive data which is going on to these different platforms. So you can filter it by application, you can filter it basis the kind of data what you are interested to look for. The GenAI usage by department, which department is using which kind of GenAI application. So we can go up to a department level as well. And then who all are the top users, and if a user is a top user, user is part of the top user list, then which application is he's using to a maximum extent. So those kind of quick analysis is readily made available to you right at the click of a button. So again, no policy configurations, no I mean, no configuration required as such. The moment you log into the console, you get this visibility. And then we go a bit deeper into this. So what you can do is you can select a GenAI application, and we can tell you that, how many DLP incidents have been recorded into that application, what all DLP engines got a match, who were the users, what are their logs, the prompts, what they have entered. So all this is there, everything from a single screen. And then this is how the user prompt capture screen looks like. So you get to know the actual user, the department, the prompt, the DLP engine, the date, timestamp, etc., without your team log into a different server or a console, which actually helps a DLP analyst to do to a larger extent. Yep. So what we have seen so far is a pure play visibility point of view. So let's talk about some of the controls, what we can build around these applications, right? The first thing is, the first control rather is, first we can block or caution a user when they try to visit an unsanctioned GenAI application, or let's say a risky application. So this is how you can actually set up a caution action for any GenAI application. So this snippet is again from our console. You select a specific application, as I've selected in cloud application, and then you can set an action. The moment you commit this change, and let's say someone is trying to visit ChatGPT, then he will be presented with this kind of a screen with a company logo, and then you can put a custom message here that, hey, you are trying to visit ChatGPT. We are cautioning you that you should not upload company sensitive information. So this kind of a caution message can be inserted in the user flow. Okay. Second, as a second control, we can always map such applications behind browser isolation, and we can control the features like upload, download of any content. We can control printing, or we can watermark the entire session, and all this is done without any sort of browser plugin or any sort of extension installation. So we work with your enterprise browser. So you have Safari, Edge, Chrome, Mozilla, or whatever enterprise grade browsers in your organization. We can enable this kind of a feature for you. So this is how the browser isolation controls look like. So you can control behaviors like copy pasting from your endpoint to the browser, or from that browser to your endpoint, printing or restricting text inputs, then controlling microphone, camera. You can enable watermark. You can put a user ID on the top of the screen, date and timestamp, and a small message, whatever. So once you deploy these controls, and let's say a user tries to access an application such as Gemini, then this is how that application gets opened. So no change in terms of the application functionality, but a lot of control comes to you from a security standpoint. So you can see those watermarkings here, and then there is a small message at the top. Now these things can be controlled into a larger extent, the way I just explained. And then on top of it, what you can do, you can always do a full-fledged DLP to block sensitive data upload on all these GenAI applications. So again, a snippet from our DLP console. So you can create DLP policies basis the application name, the file type, file size, user, department, location, time, whatever construct you want to use. All sort of constructs are available to control these GenAI applications. You can set your action, you want to monitor, you want to block, and then you can control the data part around this application. So net putting together everything, you can control the access as well as you can control the data which your users may try to upload on GenAI applications, right? And when a user is uploading something and a DLP incident gets generated, so whatever incidents gets generated in this whole context, what we can do is all these incidents can be sent to a central incident management console, wherein you can do a full-fledged automation in terms of auto closing an incident, or let's say notifying a user or escalating to the reporting manager. You can use email, you can use Microsoft Teams or Slack for these user interactions. In terms of integrations, what we have is we have a out-of-box integration with Jira and ServiceNow. And for other ticketing platforms, the API connectors are available for consumption. Now that's something on the public GenAI part. Now let's talk about something how we can control the enterprise Microsoft Copilot. Okay. So when it comes to Microsoft Copilot, I think the screen, yeah, it's okay. So when it comes to Microsoft Copilot, we all understand that it uses OneDrive as its database repository, and the same database repository is actually used by Copilot to get trained on the data which is stored in it. So now what that means is, see, while your data remains within your organization, but if your employee asks a query to Microsoft Copilot that, hey, how much my coworker is earning, or share me some stats on upcoming quarterly earnings, or share me the strategy slides for so and so deal which we are going to bid for. While Microsoft Copilot does provide basic set of controls, but what if your Microsoft admin or O365 admin does not enable those? Or let's say there is some sort of misconfiguration which happens in the O365 deployment itself. So now all these things are covered as part of our offering for Microsoft Copilot controls. What are these offerings? So in addition to controls, what I just covered as part of my public GenAI coverage, along with this, these are some additional controls what we bring in when it comes to the enterprise Copilot security. So the public GenAI controls plus what we can do here is we can revoke the extra permissions attached to sensitive files which are available in OneDrive. As you can see on the screen, it's there or towards the bottom right here. So you can actually quarantine that file, you can remove collaboration, you can remove that file itself. So some actions can be taken on that data. Similarly, what we can do is we can tell Copilot not to get trained on certain files by applying purview labels. So this is another feature functionality wherein we can stop Microsoft Copilot to do indexing on the data which is there on OneDrive. And the third control, what we bring in here is that we can also highlight misconfigurations within your Copilot deployment, within your O365 deployment, and of course, the ways to fix it, giving you a complete control over your organization's data. So we can tell you that yes, is your Copilot deployment compliant against the common frameworks? As Suba was also talking about the AI frameworks. So there are existing NIST frameworks, which you can see on the screen, like NIST, PCI, CCPA, SOC 2, and all. So what you get is you get an assurance that, hey, my deployment conforms to the standards which have been set by these security and compliances. So that's additional value, what we bring it on the table when it comes to Microsoft Copilot security. That's the second category of AI, or specifically what we call as Microsoft Enterprise Copilot security. And then let's discuss about the third category of AI applications, which is actually now categorized as enterprise managed or private AI applications. And now this is one topic which is gaining a lot of popularity these days. Let's understand this topic a bit. So see, organizations are now shifting to enterprise managed AI. They are deploying large private LLMs or large language models in the cloud or in the data centers, basically to power customer facing tools, or they have employee productivity apps. And then there are AI driven workflows, which Suva was talking about, the agentic workflows, right? So the whole intent is they want to enhance the efficiency and the decision making. So primarily, these are two predominant use cases for organizations to deploy these private LLMs. While these privately deployed models, they ensure data privacy as they are tailored for exclusive use within the enterprise, right? But there are certain risks and concerns which are again more to do with these private LLMs. For example, toxicity. Uh, Toxicity means, for example, a user can ask questions about politics or about toxic content. Models can be easily misled to create toxic content. Then another concern off topic. For example, there is a customer facing chatbot and some malicious actor is trying to ask about off topic questions. For example, the sales compensation, or asking the model to write a source code or to edit a source code. Then a sensitive data exposure. So application can expose sensitive or the regulated data when it is not supposed to do it. So this is another concern which is quite prevalent in this kind of an arrangement. And competition, of course. For example, a chatbot discusses how the competition is better. Rather than promoting your products, a chatbot may pitch in the competitors' products also when asked in the form of a prompt. So what we have done is we have come up with a solution called as Zscaler AI Guard, which actually provides you a runtime protection for all enterprise managed applications. These applications can be hosted within your data centers, or these could be, let's say, hosted on AWS or Azure. Maybe it works seamlessly across. What it offers you a real-time monitoring and protection against prompt injection attacks, your jailbreak attempts, and PII data leakage. You can control the access, you can protect your sensitive data, and maintain audit trails, right? Ensuring security and compliance. Some classic use cases, what can be covered. The number one being content moderation, such as identifying PII, identifying secrets, off-topic inputs, and toxic content. That can be covered as part of the content moderation. Then another important use case is security. For example, blocking malicious URLs, invisible text detection, gibberish text detection, data poisoning, etc. These can be covered as part of the data security controls. And then the third is visibility. Now, when we say visibility, it includes all sort of tracking prompts as well as tracking responses along with the classification capabilities. So if I go a bit deeper into this whole concept of AI guard, so what we do is we inspect both user prompts as well as the responses which are provided by the AI model. Okay. So in the prompt phase, what we do is we inspect for toxicity, we inspect for questions about your competitors, any off-topic usage is there, any sort of prompt injection is done by any sort of malicious actor, sensitive data, and all sort of jailbreak attempts. So this is covered as part of the prompt inspection initiatives. And then similarly, in the um, in the response inspection, what we do is, so we check for everything what I covered as part of the prompt inspection. What additionally we do in this phase is we check for your malicious or broken URLs which are sent back by AI ML model to the user, or any gibberish responses and responses which may contain unwanted information. So we filter it. We act as a proxy to these responses. We do this all cleaning up and then send a very cleaned or a sanitized output to the end user. Okay, so now, yeah, so with this, I would like to call out Priya to take this discussion further. But to sum up, so we discussed three different flavors of AI: the public Gen AI, the enterprise copilot, and then the agentic or agentic AI, or I would call it as the private AI, and how we as an organization can help you in getting visibility and control across all three flavors. So with this, Priya, I would like to pass on the stage to you. And thank
Thanks.
you, everyone.
Thanks, Rohit. It was insightful, and from practitioner's perspective, let me first share my screen.
Yeah.
From practitioner's perspective, I can tell you all valid what management is expecting from all of us. Certainly, everything is now needs to be AI powered. We need to work on a lot of the areas with respect to AI. From practitioner perspective, really like to talk about this session, and it's very important what you highlighted. You talked about multiple areas and you did talk about the solution aspect of it. But if I have to summarize it, what is that from a practitioner perspective? And when I reach to industry colleagues, when we talk, I really, without actually talking a great about thing, what I think is the core challenge is first, I'll say the checkbox mentality. When we started on frameworks like GDPR, etc., for that matter, DPDPA, at least we have standard in place where we know what needs to be done. We do gap assessment, and we check it. Okay, the process is there, implementation needs to be done. So that checkbox mentality, I think that is where the challenge I see with leaders. They are still there with AI, that they think this is a check, with that same the check the box mentality. It is not. The first, they need to come out of it. It was an era before AI. It on that. Second, you talked about it, Rohit. I think your first slide talked about shadow AI. And from, I can assure you, management now wants AI security posture. And when we talk about AI security posture, the shadow AI and lack of visibility, it's the most, I'll say, critical and critical area, which we are all not there, but certainly there are solutions available. But this is the area, certainly, that is a challenge. And yes, there is a resource and process gap, that is for sure. There may be something available, that understanding is very different about it. So just to quickly summarize on AI compliance of it, I, from a practitioner perspective, really believe that one, we need to remove checkbox mentality. Second, we really need to leave principle first thought process and really go to practice driven approaches. There were changes in our AI policy that we did last month, and today I'll assure you 40% are not relevant. So if we really go principle first, by the time you cascade that down within an organization, a new practice has come up and the new thought process based on use cases have come up, and that becomes obsolete. So to my request to all the leaders here is, think and shift from principle first to practice driven approach. That is only what will survive. I can assure you from last 2 years, we also started from principle first, but it doesn't work. It has to be practice driven. And integrated governance. Rohit, you talked about integrated governance. That is the key, because at least we don't have control on extreme till the end, but whatever is in our boundary, we need to have that understanding. Are we governing that? So that is the second three. And I think from AI compliance perspective, AI governance will not be successful if you don't have integrated teams with respect to where legal is giving input, compliance is giving input, technical team is giving input, business is giving input. And I have seen business objective of management is also changing. So it's a unit that needs to work together. And on top of it, we need tools. We need native tools that help us with those governances. That is true. And we need to educate. For example, Rohit, what you shared, discussed, I knew about it. When I talked to a lot of industry colleagues, they don't have that visibility. At least there is something already available. So they are struggling with it. The idea is to at least have that understanding what is visible, what is available, leverage that. We may not have every tool that we are using. They are also trying to get into AI aspects. It may take them more 1 or 2 quarters to reach there. They have some aspects, some may take time, but at least whatever is there, I find that also missing. That is very critical. And I think Rohit, you highlighted at least what your native tool kind of highlighted about it. And as I said about create a governance framework, that's really critical, and then combine it first. I think Suha did talk about regulatory aspect of it. Why I'm coming to regulatory aspect of it? Earlier, 2 years back, we used to call responsible AI. I, in any forum, don't call it responsible AI. It is AI compliance, because now we have EU AI, we have NIST. At least we have that basic structure in place where we can look at it and say, okay, this is what we need to do. So from practitioner perspective, what helped us was when we look at how to develop a framework, you need to develop a framework. So my recommendation from practitioner perspective will be, look at, you can look at Trustworthy AI, you can look at Google's AI, IEEE's EAD. They all talk about, end of the day, they talk about same things. They talk about the intent aspect of it, and your business objective has to be that intent. What is a risk appetite to your organization? It varies from organization to organization. So that all you need to have first understanding, then based on that, you need to create your framework. And if we quickly talk about what EU AI gives us, it talks about, it categorizes it's in high risk, it categorizes it to limited and minimal risk. Every use case you can define and say if this use case is high, if this is limited, and if it is minimal. If you don't have this understanding, you will not be able to work on everything will be on same bucket. That's what EU AI says. Terminology wise, as Suha said, NIST AIRFM, a wonderful document. It eventually again talks about same aspects, but in a different language. But if you actually see the essence, it's exactly same as what EU AI is suggesting. It asks us to kind of, it asks us to follow a structured approach. For example, there are various pillars to it. It kind of asks us to work around those pillars, but in essence, they all are talking same. And same for ISO 22000. So that was about regulatory aspect. When you are working on the first part of AI compliance, look at those aspects, don't mark it as a checkbox. Move ahead from perspective and principle based to practice based. Define your policy, but first understand what is already available. Based on that, create your boundary structure for your organization and define a policy. The moment you define a policy, your all policies will be based on basic risk framework. And I think it's universal everywhere. You need to identify based on the work you are doing, what is prohibited. It should be agreed by management. It's not an individual decision. I've just listed some, but this can vary organization to organization. You need to list what are the use cases from AI perspective. You say are high, you say are limited, you say are like have a minimal risk, or they are general purpose. As Rohit highlighted, the moment you have this understanding, based on this, you can customize the tool and policy around it. But in case you don't have a clear idea, you can't be putting a general purpose use case and giving it a high kind of a configuration in your native tools. You can't do that. First, you need to understand what is high and then put necessary controls in place and around energy around same. So that framework does give it to you. Tools like Rohit highlighted, it has all those capabilities. But as a practitioner perspective, it is you as a leaders who have to decide that what is high, limited, medium, and general purpose and align it with your tools. I recently faced a scenario where we're working on an AI tool. It had all the capabilities, great. And our leadership said, I need a sign out from you. We evaluated it. It was a good, they had all the practices in place. They have security enabled, etc., etc. But they are giving opt-in, opt-out options. They are giving options where data can be public, non-public. We can opt-in features. They are giving features based on our data classification, based on our use case. We need to customize it. So as native providers, they can give that solution, but I think equal 50% responsibility in all of us, how we configure that. And the configuration starts with classification of that AI use case and having that clear understanding what comes under these categories that we have defined. Quickly, if we just talk about AI compliance mapping from RIST, AI, RFM, EU AI, and I was recently looking at what DPDPA is also talking about. If we have basics in place, it also is directly, indirectly talking about same aspects about it. End of the day, it talks about data protection, it talks about governance, accountability, all of these areas, and we will see something coming from Government of India as well around this. But if you have to map it quickly, these are the components. And as you can see, EU talks about articles and NIST talks about, they define it by identify, protect, detect, and respond. These are the 4 categories that NIST RFM categorizes. If we have to map it with AI, they talk about general language like data governance, assessments, transparency. Language is different, but as you can see, they are kind of expecting same aspects with respect to governance. What they expect is that, organization leadership should be there, as I said. How will you do that? You need to have visibility of data. The moment we need to understand it, somebody is talking about, I need an AI security posture. First, who we need to kind of share that with it. So we need to identify governance, who's accountable, who's responsible, that we need to define. Regulatory mapping, as we have done here. And I just talked about risk mapping. The second stage is that risk mapping. Tools, native tool help you with that. They can help you put that regulatory mapping in case you have a EU data, you have a India data, you have US data, you have PHI data, PII data. That data is your. Based on that risk mapping, you can customize the native tools and they help you to kind of put those regulatory mapping. So if leadership comes to you and say, how are you doing? And we have customers, they reached out to us that how are you doing with respect to EU, with respect to US, in fact, Japan after us. So our point is that, see, we have categorized it as per risk management. Here is our categorization. And then we are customizing the use case in the tools and putting appropriate controls in place. If you ask me, we are there at the top? No. But at least we have something to talk about and we have put basics in control. But it is very important to have those kind of tools, because without that, you will not be able to do this customization, at least in case you have huge data line. Data governance and privacy, as I talked about, tools are there, but what privacy aspects you are taking care of, you need to kind of only identify that. Transparency and accessibility, it's very important. For example, Rohit shared with us details who is using which kind of AI. Every day we are getting this asked, what are the different tools? If you have a whitelisting policy, not a blacklisting policy, what are the tools that employees are using for AI? At least we need to have that visibility. Are there any tools like more people are using and we are not aware? How will you get that information? Because leaders are asking these kind of questions. So yes, with kind of native tools, I think Rohit also highlighted that in slide, you can go to that mapping where it showcased to you, okay, this is, for example, OpenAI, how many people are using it? It also goes to a level where it suggests to you which department is using it. And you can put a control or you can ask them to take an enterprise version to it. So that kind of a data governance privacy, we as a compliance head get an experience and get an idea when we have a tool which you can customize based on your needs. And then you give that confidence to your management and to your clients per se. Bias, fairness mitigation, certainly If it is at an enterprise level, it needs to come from top to down. Whatever use cases you are working on, apart from policy, you need some technical guards to kind of see it. Manually, it's not possible. So that's very critical, and both NIST and EU talk about it. Security and robustness, very important. What kind of security controls are you placing to ensure that data is accurate, reliable, and attacks? And Rohit did highlight also about how they can help us in those aspects of it. And I think these are very basic questions that now, whatever I have listed here, I can assure you that most of the RFPs and most of the clients are coming back with these questions. We can't say that we are manually tracking it. So whatever is available, at least have an idea about it, at least you can talk about it. Monitoring, auditing, reporting, it's a key aspect. We need to see who is doing what. We need to monitor it, how AI is used, how open sources are used for that matter. We need to check the reports and audit and maybe put some security monitoring aspects aligned with it. Training awareness, the key. So as we just quickly talked about, we touched base, what is the problem? We then started with what is the solution, how we can take that journey ahead. And we understand that we first need to kind of create a policy, and we at least now have basics in place where we can pick up those two standards and create some around it. And then identify the risk that we have and map your use cases based on those risks. Once we have that understanding, configure your native tool. How you can configure your native tools, because it's very important now. It's completely shifting trust left now. That is how I seen last year. And what customers are expecting us, I can assure you, they say that, okay, you are doing every work in our environment, but your team is developing it. So in case your team is developing, how are you embedding security earlier in your AI development process? Do they understand it? Have they identified the risk? Do they have that understanding? And actually, before it reaches to production, I think this is we have seen all kind of quality assurance aspects, security aspects, but I think everybody now is asking this question from compliance perspective, their leadership perspective, customers, and we ask them to vendors. They want to see how proactively we have inculcated AI security aspects. One, have we that understanding? Second, are we talking that language? And third, how we are kind of creating that in a workflow model end to end. That is what the shift rest left I see actually is here. And how can these tools help us? I talked about, because recently we used to share security posture. Now we are sharing up along with that AI security posture. And I think within some months, if somebody is not doing it or management is not asking, they all will ask for it. What are the key components that with native tools that Suha talk about, Rohit in detail talk about, what can we leverage on? It gives you comprehensive visibility and controls, the tools that we talked about. It needs tweaking. It needs a constant kind of updates and all. You keep on changing policy, but that's the need of the hour. They are learning the native tools that we work with. We give them use cases and they come back and say, hey, this will take 1 quarter to get implemented. In the meantime, management says, in the time, what are your guardrails you are ensuring from technology perspective, people perspective, and process perspective, till you don't have this technology aspect implemented. Think about those lines. Whatever is there from a security posture management available through native tools, understanding, list that down. What is not there? Give those use cases to your native providers, and at the same time, think about the guardrails in the meantime. It can be also people specific. You need to, maybe there is no process or technology aspect to it. Maybe there is just awareness aspect to it. So think from those guardrail perspective when you are kind of working on an AI security perspective. And I think Rohit covered in detail AI guardrails, prompt inspections and all. Now these are really basics. What are the inline inspections in AI? What is the response blocks? How do we kind of prevent data exploitation, manipulation of the frameworks? These all, now we need to kind of have a policy around it, then see what all we have, what we don't have. Until we don't have a guardrail in terms of technology, what is from process and people perspective we need to do. Data loss prevention, it's same. Even with AI, what I've seen is DLP, it is same. We may use it at AI, but it's just that the use cases we have created new, but the work aspects of it is same. And as just talked about shift left trusted AI development, think it from that perspective from the start, because we have to look at enterprise AI aspect of it. We went to cloud ops, all of those aspects. Now the additional layer we need to think about is AI enterprise level, and how from that enterprise level everything is going down, and from at the start of the time how we are controlling on the things so that they don't go down, and we give that kind of confidence to our clients. That is really important. So we need to kind of think on those lines now. And continuous reporting and auditing, as I said, it's we need some benchmarks we already have now, thankfully. And based on those benchmarks, how we are going, having a regular governance around same. So that is really important. I think that just quickly summarizes from a practitioner perspective where we are and really what we need to do. And I'll just like to quickly summarize that AI potential is very, really vast. We all know that. And I think more than before, now everybody is looking at compliance and InfoSec teams for us to be more innovative and help them in innovation without kind of stopping them. At the same time, we need to ensure compliance. Where we ourselves are not very sure of where this AI aspects is going to take us as a team. But I think what we need to do is focus on now what is available, leverage that. And at the same time, wherever we can't leverage technology aspect of it, at least we need to ensure people aspect of it, process aspect of it. Don't look at them in silos till we are not there where boundary line is defined. So that is a quick summary from me from practitioner perspective. I think over to you, Sua, in case you want to add on and quickly summarize what we talked about.
Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Rohit. So I think we'll be able to summarize just in time. So first of all, thanks to everybody for keeping time. We started with setting the basic context around AI technique, technologies, and how it is being used in data protection. Rohit gave an excellent demonstration of how AI technologies are being used inside Zscaler's data protection tools, and how companies can implement them, benefit from them, and what are the granular level controls they provide. And Priya talked in depth about the different regulations and emphasized how across different geographies, regulations may be evolving in slightly different language, but in essence, they all expect the same kind of controls and the same kind of outcomes. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Over to you, Vikas.